We need a mayor who will unite us and get the job done. And I believe that mayor is Sheila Dixon, and that's why I'm endorsing her today.
Growing support for Sheila Dixon in the race for mayor. The strong words from a councilman on Mayor Scott's leadership. Marilyn Mosby set to return to the courtroom, her next round of charges, and how much extra prison time she could face. A high-ranking Johns Hopkins doctor is suspended. His comments about the war in Israel and the punishment a civil rights group is demanding.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
Well, the race for the next mayor of Baltimore is heating up. Just an hour after Mayor Scott, he will announce his re-election campaign this weekend. City Councilman Eric Costello throws his support behind former Mayor Sheila Dixon.
I've watched Mayor Dixon in the community over the last 9 years, and simply put, I've been in awe of her, with a tremendous amount of respect and admiration for what she does each and every single day for residents, even after being out of office for over a decade.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Maxine Stryker. Councilman Eric Costello says he believes former Mayor Sheila Dixon is the right person to unite the city and get the job done.
And the issues he cites facing city residents come as a laundry list, from the mayor's failure to restore weekly recycling to unresponsive city agencies and the continued struggle to restore public safety. Costello says the current administration has failed the residents of Baltimore.
Day in and day out, I hear from constituents who want basics like trash and recycling that is picked up on time, roads that are paved, and police and city agencies that are responsive to our residents. They deserve a leader with a steady hand who is able to make the tough decisions to overcome our biggest challenges while also ensuring the very basics of government and the things that we all pay taxes for are handled effectively.
And we have live team coverage.
Let's begin with Jeff Abel and the endorsement of Sheila Dixon. Jeff?
Well, this endorsement did come with some stinging words delivered by a city councilman and aimed straight at the mayor. In fact, it was this afternoon when City Councilman Eric Costello threw his support behind mayoral candidate Sheila Dixon. But in making his case, he delivered some tough words about the current administration, which he believes is spiraling out of control.
Make no mistake about it, I love Brandon Scott as a person. I do. And it pains me to say that his lack of leadership is failing all of us. We are at an inflection point, and continuing on this trajectory is simply not an option.
It takes a lot to step out against an administration that you work with and to support someone who's trying to go back into office.
Well, despite his tough words today, Costello says he still does plan to work with the current administration without incident. We're live this afternoon. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
We just received a statement from Mayor Scott. It reads, "This election will come down to a simple choice. Do we want to keep building Baltimore's future or return to the failed leadership and policies of the past?" It goes on to say that Mayor Scott is committed to building Baltimore's future, one where we continue record investments in education and our youth, continue opening rec centers, not closing them, and continue to reduce crime while building public trust. You can read more at foxbaltimore.com. And this brings us now to our question of the day. If the elections were held today, who would you vote for? Mayor Scott or Sheila Dixon? You can vote right now at foxbaltimore.com.
Well, Fox 45 News continues to demand answers from City Hall about the Safe Streets program. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live with what the mayor's saying about the possible connection between gang members and Safe Streets. Mackenzie.
Yeah, Mary, so we went to a few different events today trying to get the mayor after we weren't able to get some of our questions answered yesterday during the mayor's media availability. Today we finally did catch up with him and we questioned him about what he knows about the possible connection between some gang affiliation, specifically the Black Guerrilla Family or BGF, and violence interrupters.
We didn't cut the news conference short. No one else had that complaint but you, so let's be truthful when we're asking questions.
Well, I had other questions, and I sent them to your office, didn't answer, so I wanted to ask you here, how long have you known about the possible links between BGF and Safe Streets?
So we're going to go through this again, Mackenzie. I think that we appreciate your reporting, and we appreciate the fact that you guys can go and look up public documents in court and know that one individual way back in 2010 had been involved in BGF and was in Safe Streets. But we know that that does not mean that everyone that's in Safe Streets is in BGF.
I also asked the mayor about whether he would support a state-level audit of the mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, or MONSE. You can hear his response coming up at 5 o'clock. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. That brings us to our question of the day. Do you believe Mayor Scott is being transparent about Safe Streets? So far, 97% of those who voted say no. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote. Click on the Pulse tab to weigh in.
And as Fox 45 News continues to cover the soaring juvenile crime rates, another city business closes its doors, and many cite juvenile crime as the main reason. Olivia Dance reports.
When you look into those kids' eyes, they do not see fear.
West Baltimore resident Paulette Carroll has been a victim of juvenile crime.
Yes, I am a victim. When you have a gang of kids knocking on your door and want to fight one of your kids, and if your kid's not in there, they're going to attack you. I witnessed it, and I was one of those people that had got attacked before.
She says she's also seen teens commit similar crimes at her local Walgreens pharmacy.
It's a big concern. You know, they come in a pack of 20, 15, and come into the store and ambush the workers, snatch and grab, beat them up. So it's sad.
Paulette Carroll tells me that beyond this Walgreens, other nearby businesses, including in this parking lot here, have also been impacted by juvenile crime.
It was MeQ, the doctor's office, you know, their vans been vandalism and the windows been busting and they still.
Today, this Walgreens off Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard is closing its doors for good. Councilman Eric Costello represents the district and addressed the closure, blaming juvenile crime.
Which has been plagued by juvenile crime, which means the communities I represent in Heritage Crossing and then towns in the Terraces in Northeast Poppleton will be without a pharmacy because collectively we haven't done enough to get this situation under control.
Walgreens has not confirmed juvenile crime is behind the store's closing, but Carroll says something needs to be done about the youth crime.
I think they need to come down harder on these kids because the parents are participating in them. They need to hold them accountable for their kids.
And while Walgreens isn't the first business to close because of crime, Carroll says this closure will have a major impact.
We have over 3,000 people over here. What are they going to do? And it's a lot of seniors do not drive and they cannot walk.
So now many in this West Baltimore community are without a pharmacy. Reporting in Baltimore, I'm Olivia Dance, Fox 45 News.
This week, state Republicans introduced a 5-part plan to address crime, including 2 juvenile crime proposals. The Juvenile Justice Restoration Act calls to allow parents to substitute for an attorney when their child faces questions from police. It would also force anyone under 13 charged with a gun crime or any child arrested for the same nonviolent crime 3 times to automatically go into DJS supervision. But the plan does not address problems we've seen with home detention once a child leaves DJS.
Baltimore detectives are asking for the public's help in solving a cold case from 1983. Detectives are still trying to locate the person responsible for killing Donald McBee. Police say he was strangled to death in his home on Bolton Street on October 22nd, 1983. Anybody with information is asked to contact Metro Crime Stoppers. The number is at the bottom of your screen. They are offering a potential reward of $8,000 for any information that leads to an arrest.
And all 9 defendants facing multiple charges in the long-term investigation into the WIC Squad drug trafficking organization have pleaded guilty. Back in April of 2022, the Attorney General's office and BPD began investigating the members associated with the WIC Squad, which operated out of West Baltimore. In total, the investigation was able to uncover 11 firearms, large amounts of drugs, and ammunition.
Coming up after the break, following the federal trial of former Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby, what comes next for the former top prosecutor?
A high-ranking doctor at Johns Hopkins on leave for comments he made on the Israel-Hamas war, what he's accused of saying, and the backlash.
And it's football night in Baltimore. These are live pictures inside M&T Bank Stadium as the Ravens host the Bengals. Morgan Atzett will join us live with the matchup.
And if you're commuting home or you're driving to the game this afternoon, this evening, looks like fantastic weather. Temperature at 63 at 5, 57 at 6, and 7 p.m. temperatures at 55 degrees, but a lot cooler by the Ravens game. I'll get into how cool things are going to be and how you'll have to dress. It's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Back now with the Fox 45 quad box. A man in Texas will be executed by lethal injection tonight, nearly 22 years to the day since he was convicted of killing a 5-year-old girl back in 2001.
Las Vegas police are searching for 2 more suspects after a teenager was beaten to death outside a high school. 8 teens ranging in age from 13 to 17 are currently facing charges for that murder.
President Joe Biden meeting with Chinese leader Xi Jinping for the first time in a year ahead of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in San Francisco. The 2 leaders tackling the fentanyl crisis and working to resume military communications between China and the U.S.
And Congressman George Santos announcing he will not seek re-election in 2024 after a scathing House ethics report on his conduct. The House says it has amassed overwhelming evidence that Santos broke the law, claiming he used campaign funds for personal purposes, filed false reports with the FEC, and violated the Ethics in Government Act. Santos has repeatedly denied those allegations.
Former Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby won't be sentenced until the completion of her second federal trial, which we now know will begin in January. But just how much time is she looking at spending behind bars? We spoke with a local attorney and found out.
It was just last week a federal jury found former Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby guilty of 2 counts of perjury.
I'm blessed.
Now she's set to be back in court January 18th, facing 2 counts of making false statements on mortgage applications related to the purchase of 2 vacation homes in Florida.
It's a very strong case. Mortgage fraud cases, look, she's an attorney. She signed her name a bunch of times to a bunch of legal documents. It's literally what we're supposed to do for a living as lawyers.
Once that trial comes to an end, Mosby will be sentenced for the 2 perjury counts, each which carry a maximum sentence of 5 years. And if found guilty, the mortgage fraud counts each carry a maximum sentence of 30 years in federal prison.
She's subject to the maximum penalty as to each of the counts that she's facing, assuming that she's convicted of all of them.
But Kurt Nachman with EN Lawyers, who's not associated with the case, says it's unlikely she'd get the maximum sentence and spend 7 decades behind bars. It's more likely the perjury counts will carry a sentence of anywhere between 15 and 21 months each. Either way, he believes Mosby will spend years in federal prison.
Assuming that Mosby is convicted of all of her conduct, I believe that she will serve more than 12 months, more than 24 months in federal prison.
He says a plea negotiation could also still be on the table, and that could mean a more lenient sentence.
The government may or may not want to do that. Ultimately, it's going to be, Eric Barron, the United States Attorney's decision as to whether or not they're going to even engage in a plea discussion.
Well, trust Fox 45 News to bring you the latest on Mosby's federal trials and sentencing. You can read more right now at foxbaltimore.com.
Taking a live look at M&T Bank Stadium, where the Ravens are gearing up for a big matchup tonight against the Cincinnati Bengals. You can see the cheerleaders out early ahead of the game practicing. In less than 10 minutes, Morgan Atzett will join us live from there with how the flock is preparing after last week's tough loss against the Cleveland Browns.
We're keeping an eye on the game day forecast as well as our next weather maker that could impact the busy holiday travel. Live pictures outside Towson and Ocean City right now, and things are kind of as beautiful today.
It's so gorgeous. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers here with more. Really nice night for football.
Yeah, made it to 72 this afternoon. How about that for late fall Thursday night football at the bank? So, I mean, just fantastic weather. Great for tailgating. I know driving into work, I drive right past that stadium district there. Saw lots of folks already there getting ready to party, have a good time. 70 degrees now, mostly cloudy skies. Will be cooler than this by the time we get to game time this evening at 8:15. But hey, enjoy it while we got it. Winds out of the southwest at about 5. Humidity, I mean, bone dry. 23% Toyota East Harbor Skycam looks great and ready for a Ravens win. Temperature at 70 degrees now here in Baltimore. We're at 67 at Cockeysville. What should it be this time of year? About 55 to 60. We're at 68 at Columbia. A little bit cooler near the bay because, of course, the bay water temperatures are well down into the 50s now. So impacted by that is Annapolis at 54, 62 at Stevensville, and 64 at Easton. 24-hour temperature changes. 10 to 15 degrees warmer than we were yesterday at the same time. Yesterday was 60, so hence, yeah, about 10, 12 degrees up here in Baltimore right now. High temperature, again, 72 Baltimore, lots of 60s and near 70-degree readings across the map, even way up at elevation. I mean, this is some of the highest points of Maryland out at Oakland, up Deep Creek Lakeway, where you go skiing in the winter or maybe do some water skiing in the summer on the lake. 63 this afternoon, so real warm. HD radar showing we've got a whole ton of rain down across Florida, which is actually going to help us out. This system that's down here is going to move off the coast over the next several days and kind of steal the moisture from this weather maker that's up around Billings to Minneapolis. And that's the one that's actually going to come through here. And when it does, it's just not going to have a whole lot of moisture with it. So there will be some light showers now, it appears, at worst, maybe a 10-20% chance of rain coming through here Friday night, mainly while you're sleeping. And then Saturday, it's out of here once again. But another weather maker impacts us into next week. Clear skies for the remainder of today on into tonight. Clouds will gradually increase on into tomorrow, but still nice and warm as this next system hauls its way eastbound. That's going to be a cold front, so there is some chillier air behind it. A lot of that's going to get left up in the Intermountain West and the upper Midwest. We may drop by about 10 degrees. Won't be quite the mid-60s to near 70 that a lot of the country is seeing right now, but things will definitely be feeling cooler through the weekend and especially into Thanksgiving week. All right, commute forecasted to this evening, 5 to 7 p.m. Again, temperatures falling through the 60s on into the 50s, but not even a cloud in the sky through about Thursday, 6:45. We're looking at, again, temperatures falling through the 50s and eventually into the 40s. Of course, this is going to be game time as well from about 8:15 through midnight tonight. And you see, still mainly clear, but you will need some jackets. Now, overnight into early tomorrow, notice the clouds will increase. A cloudier day for Friday. And here is that next weather maker coming for Friday night into Saturday. I think getaways on Friday afternoon should be okay, but right around midnight or so and shortly thereafter into early Saturday morning, it looks like clouds and maybe a couple of showers. And then by early Saturday, that's out of here. It's breezy and cooler, 59, 58 on Sunday. Cooler day Monday. These could be messy days, Tuesday into the big travel Wednesday, especially Tuesday afternoon into Wednesday morning. And then Thanksgiving, 54 and sun.
We'll take a look at this. Mayor Brandon Scott teaming up with the Red Cross and the Baltimore City Fire Department. Their smoke alarm partnership will install free smoke detectors for Baltimore City residents. They're also working to educate residents and raise awareness of the importance of fire safety.
In addition to the installation of smoke alarms, our collaboration with the American Red Cross also includes many educational initiatives. We have been conducting fire safety neighborhood sweeps and providing resources to help residents develop and practice fire escape plans, ensuring that they are prepared in the event of an emergency.
The fire department is urging anybody without a smoke detector to request a free installation by calling 311. A Hopkins doctor is in hot water tonight, accused of making racist comments about Palestinians. The continued impact we're seeing here at home from Israel's war with Hamas. The 2024 presidential election is heating up, while a majority of voters are looking to a third-party candidate.
I'm Morgan Atzett, live at M&T Bank Stadium, where soon we will have Thursday night football between the Bengals and Ravens, why both teams are calling tonight must win. That's coming up next on Sports Unlimited. Hey everyone, welcome to Sports Unlimited. I'm Morgan Atzett, live at M&T Bank Stadium, where we're waiting on Thursday night football between the Bengals and Ravens. Now, as bad as the Ravens week started out on Sunday with that horrible loss to Cleveland, another time they watch a fourth quarter lead disappear. The reason why they're not 10-0 this season, they are fine. 7-3 at the top of the AFC North. But what you really have to look out this week and tonight, it's a short week, but they need it. They could welcome company in the AFC North at the top with a loss tonight. With a win, they get that separation they want with a 10-day break ahead. And for Cincinnati, this team has no wins in the North and had the same thing happen to them on Sunday, losing with a last-second field goal to the Texans, and they need this win just as bad, calling this a playoff game for them, really hitting that desperation mode. But the Ravens say, even though they're at the top and Cincinnati's at the bottom of divisional standings, they feel exactly the same way.
Every game for us is a must win for us, not just because it's in a division game, but we definitely, I believe our team is definitely a lot hungrier just from what happened Sunday in a division loss in a close game. We definitely hungry as well.
You know you're early when we don't even have pregame warm-ups going on, but we have it for the cheerleaders. Very important. They got to get ready, too. So this is the spot that we're going to camp out right now, because coming up in our live reports during the 5 o'clock hour, that's going to be really big for the Ravens. They got a couple players, including all-pro cornerback Marlon Humphrey, outside linebacker Kyle Van Noy. Van Noy more so has a chance to play than Humphrey tonight, but they're believed to be game-time decisions that are going to test their bodies during pregame warm-ups happening here shortly in the 5 o'clock hour. We'll have that for you. Reporting live at M&T Bank Stadium, I'm Morgan Atzett for Sports Unlimited.
All right, Morgan, thank you. Our viewers showing off their purple pride ahead of today's game. On the top of your screen, Donna on the left and Claude on the right are showing their support for the flock. And on the bottom, even the littlest Ravens fan getting in on the hype, with Adrian and Demetria sending us these adorable pictures of their purple pride. So cute. Well, if you're showing off your purple pride for tonight's game, we want to see it. Just scan the QR code on your screen. It'll take you to foxbaltimore.com, where you can upload all of your pictures and videos. It is powered by Stackla. Coming up after the break, the conflict in the Middle East having impacts around the world, the comments a high-ranking doctor is accused of making, and the trouble he's in tonight.
Anti-Israel demonstrators clashing with Capitol Police. I'm Kayla Gaskins at the Democratic National Headquarters, and coming up, we speak with a woman who was caught in the chaos.
Plus, the Maryland Teachers Union bringing in record amounts of money, but it is unclear where that money is going. Project Baltimore looking into how the money might not be benefiting the students.
6 full weeks have come and gone, and the Middle East conflict between Israel and Hamas continues.
As Israel presses on to rescue hostages, Palestinians continue to have their livelihoods uprooted. You're looking at people in southern Gaza fleeing today after Israeli forces gave evacuation notices, a signal that military operations are picking up in the area. Humanitarian groups saying that fighting in that region could further threaten aid coming in.
We're calling for a humanitarian ceasefire in part because we need the space to do our work and for our people.
24 hours ago, we told you about Israeli forces inside one of the largest hospitals in Gaza. This afternoon, Israel's military saying they've located the body of a hostage near that hospital. They also say they found piles of weapons, ammunition tucked away behind MRI machines. President Biden says the U.S. supports the Israeli assessment that Hamas is using hospitals as their command center.
A few of the most interesting things that we have found totally confirm, without any doubt, that Hamas systematically uses hospitals in their military operations in violation of international law.
Well, here at home, we continue to see the ripple effects of this war.
We have team coverage. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins with the tense protest overnight in D.C.
First, Amy Simpson with a Johns Hopkins doctor on leave for comments he made about the war. Amy?
Yes, Maxine, Mary, hate-filled posts surfacing from about a month ago, and a group called CARE, or Maryland's Council on American Islamic Relations, said that doctors, nurses, even patients at the hospital came forward calling for action against this physician. Take a look. CARE sharing screenshots of a series of online posts in early October shared by the account at Dr. Kluge's. One post describing Palestinians as, quote, bloodthirsty, morally depraved animals, and another referring to Palestinians as, quote, people that rape and murder civilians. CARE said it filed a complaint with Maryland's Board of Physicians about Dr. Darren Klugman this week, and the physician, according to his profile on Johns Hopkins website, he's director of pediatric cardiac critical care and an associate professor of anesthesiology and critical care medicine.
Physicians, they take an oath to do no harm. They are entrusted with the care of a vulnerable population, in this case children, in the critical cardiac care unit. The damage that's been done is irreparable. And I think that, at this point, it's too little too late. A leave is not enough. We are calling for him to be terminated. We are calling for his medical license to be revoked.
And Amy, how is Johns Hopkins responding to these calls for action against the doctor?
Well, Maxine, this afternoon, a spokesperson for Johns Hopkins Medicine said the person responsible for these posts is on leave, not interacting with patients or students at this time. Also sharing a statement that said, in part, we at Johns Hopkins share the concern of many about the deeply disturbing social media posts made by a faculty member in the School of Medicine regarding the ongoing crisis in the Middle East. Also saying the hospital and university are committed to a safe and inclusive environment for all, and, quote, statements that explicitly threaten or extol violence against groups or individuals on the basis of national origin, race, or religion violate our policies and do not represent our values. Meanwhile, the social media account that made these posts in early October has now been deleted. Reporting live tonight, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Amy, thank you. Well, this is not the first time we are seeing comments on the Israel conflict have big impacts locally. The nonprofit Casa of Maryland is coming under fire after its longtime executive director released statements on the war. Executive Director Gustavo Torres expressed Casa's, quote, steadfast support for Palestine's relentless fight for freedom. The statement went on to say a call for immediate ceasefire and the halt of U.S. tax dollars promoting the ongoing violence. The comments causing some state lawmakers to threaten to pull public funding.
I wouldn't really call it a full apology, but then it says that they're going to put out an updated statement. Yet it's been over a week and they haven't done so. And so clearly they're not really sorry about this statement that they put out.
That's a good start, and certainly it's an appropriate thing to do. I am of the belief that more should be done.
Local advocate groups are now demanding lawmakers retract their threats to strip funding, including Maryland's ACLU.
who says they are firmly defending Casa's right to free speech. Today, Casa of Maryland took to Twitter to release a statement saying, in part, quote, "We wanted to shine a spotlight directly on the innocent Israeli and Palestinian children and families caught in the middle of this horrendous conflict. Instead, we caused dear friends pain and confusion."
Israel and Hamas appear to be near a hostage deal, according to officials.
The current framework includes the release of 50 women and children taken on October 7th, but it does not include terms of a ceasefire, something American demonstrators continue to call for.
National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the details on a protest turned violent at the Democratic National Headquarters in Washington, D.C.
Anti-Israel demonstrations growing bolder in demands for a ceasefire. In Boston, a large group shutting down a highway Thursday morning.
Bombing Gaza is not making anybody safer.
The night before, mayhem unfolding outside of the DNC headquarters in Washington, D.C. We spoke with a woman having dinner nearby that night.
We were told we could not leave, and they said there are protesters out there.
Some of those protesters got very close to the restaurant where you were eating.
Right. One waved at me.
Police escorted her out the back to safety.
It's a good thing they took us out when they did, because that's when the violence started occurring.
Representative Brad Sherman was at that meeting with DNC leaders, including head of the caucus, Hakeem Jeffries.
The police came in, the Capitol Police, who did an outstanding job, and evacuated us through the basement.
It seems clear to me that the people in the building really have contempt for the people they claim to represent.
In a statement, Capitol Police estimating 200 people were there, adding, "We have handled hundreds of peaceful protests, but last night's group was not peaceful." The small, chaotic crowd outside the DNC, a stark contrast to the organized, peaceful pro-Israel march on the National Mall the day before, attended by almost 300,000, according to the event's organizers.
Together we pray.
Some, like political science professor Nicholas Giordano, blame the lack of Holocaust education in schools for the current anti-Israel climate.
Polls show that students know very little about the Holocaust. They don't know, they can't name one concentration camp. It really goes to show that students are ill-informed about what's really going on.
New polling shows most young people get their information on the war from social media, which experts suggest could be why support for Hamas among young people is nearly equal support for Israel. At the Democratic National Headquarters, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Back in Maryland, the state teachers union raking in record amounts of revenue intended to improve public education.
But as Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, we're learning where most of that money is going, and it's not to students.
The annual increases are pretty damn troubling.
Powerful reactions to a Project Baltimore investigation into the Maryland State Education Association, the teachers union.
I'm suggesting that what we have seen, Brian, is a creation of a jobs factory that only cares 75,000 members they have in MSEA, cares about the creating more jobs than it does elevating the education.
We analyzed MSEA's federal tax filings and found revenues hit record highs last year of nearly $26.5 million. As student test scores have plummeted. The tax-exempt organization, with a stated mission to elevate the quality of public education, we've learned, has amassed more than $45 million in assets.
What is the plan for this money? How do you plan to spend this $45 million?
One thing that is going down like a rock are the school test scores.
Yeah. That should concern every parent in the entire state.
Now, we're learning more about how MSEA is spending its money. Money that typically starts as tax dollars, which go to schools, then teachers, who pay union dues. Look at this chart from MSEA's federal filing. At least 11 employees earned more than $200,000 in total compensation last year. Christy Anderson, the general counsel, earned $285,000. Sean Johnson, the executive director, earned $276,000. And Kathy Perry, the assistant executive director, earned $259,000. If If we dig deeper into the numbers, we can see $16.9 million went towards salaries, other compensation, employee benefits for the union's 93 employees. If $16.9 million went to 93 employees, that means on average, union employees earned nearly $182,000 in total compensation. Keep in mind, MSEA is a tax-exempt nonprofit with a specific mission to elevate public education.
The unions should be helping the schools, not helping themselves. And that's what's happening here.
David Williams is with the Taxpayers Protection Alliance.
It's shameful to see that the union is getting paid these exorbitant amounts of salary compensation while students are failing.
According to federal test scores, we can see Maryland students are declining. In 8th grade math and reading in 2013, Maryland students outperformed the national average. By 2022, we had fallen below the national average in math, and we're tied in reading.
It's frustrating to see that students are struggling in the classroom while the unions are getting richer.
Project Baltimore, starting last week, has sent multiple emails to various high-ranking union officials, including President Cheryl Bost, asking for information about how the union spends its money to benefit students. To date, we have not received any reply.
They should be transparent. There should be oversight, especially considering that they are raising money from teachers.
Our investigation into MSEA is not over. We believe taxpayers deserve answers. The teachers union is tax exempt so that it has more money to fulfill its mission of improving public education. But is MSEA doing that? We will stay on this story. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Coming up after the break, the holidays are quickly approaching and local groups are looking to give back. The event happening this weekend at Harley-Davidson and how you can get involved.
So to wash or not to wash when it comes to prepping your turkey? I'm Liz Bonus. It is the great debate. We're going to talk about it next.
And if you're going to the Ravens game this evening, if you're not already out there tailgating, it looks like you'll probably need some jackets and sweaters as we dip down through the 50s, eventually almost into the 40s by the end of the game. I'm going to let you know how warm things get for tomorrow before a big chill down coming our way toward Thanksgiving. That's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Santa is trading in the reindeer for Harley-Davidsons this weekend. Harley-Davidson Baltimore hosting a poker fundraiser for Toys for Tots. Today on Fox 45 Morning News, we got a sneak peek.
We love toys, and kids love motorcycles, and people love the sound of Harleys, and they always pay attention to us, and we always love doing this drive with Toys for Tots. So it's been great to do this. So we've been doing this for several years, and like this Saturday, we're doing a Toys for Tots fundraiser at the store. Starts at 9:30. We're going to do a poker run in the store, and there's a chance to win $100 in gift cards. Yeah. And then we also have wonderful pictures with Santa, so you can bring your kids, your dogs, your pets, and sit with Santa and have a family picture.
Well, you can find more information about the event at BaltimoreMetroHog.com. And from turkeys and potatoes, First Fruits Farm is partnering with community organizations to serve those in need this holiday season. Be More lifestyle host Mark Clark has a closer look at the efforts underway and how you can get involved.
So today we're packing bread. We finished up our growing season. About 2 million pounds of produce this year is what we grew, and we're getting ready for Thanksgiving, adding bread to our donation to our distribution network.
And I love the fact that, you know, different ages, different groups, people from all over the place come in and not only volunteer, but also receive. I mentioned you guys have an event, I think, Saturday, feeding like over 300 families.
Yeah.
And that's what you got. You guys really are here to serve, right?
Yeah, we're here to serve, and it's great to be able to do it together with the community, get the community involved, kids, adults, all ages.
And speaking of Thanksgiving meals, the CDC estimates that 1 in 6 Americans gets a foodborne illness each year, which is why experts suggest avoiding several risky behaviors when cooking. Medical reporter Liz Bonus shares what's on the list.
Hey there, everybody. USDA has a slogan, wash your hands and not the turkey, because they want all of us not to serve up a side dish of bacteria at our holiday meal. But that's not the only dangerous habit they would like us to drop.
There are several risky habits to avoid while prepping the perfect meal.
You want your soapy water to be hot.
Topping the list is Chef Candace of Ohio Cedarville University knows not washing hands and surfaces before, during, and after food prep. It's all because while you can't see them, the germs that come with turkey prep include Salmonella, Campylobacter, Clostridium perfringens, and E. coli. These can lead to bad GI symptoms, hospitalization, and even death. Second risky habit, not cleaning utensils and cutting boards between raw and cooked food.
I'm cleaning the knife that I opened the package up with.
Third risky habit, defrosting the turkey on the counter. The outer layer becomes a bacteria danger zone. USDA recommends 24 hours in the refrigerator for every 4 to 5 pounds. Finally, break the habit of overnight slow cooking.
So I like to keep my cooking time under, 4 hours.
And break the habit of not checking the turkey temperature in more than one spot.
And if it doesn't read 165, it needs more time to cook.
We have this list for you online and a few other safety suggestions about the ongoing debate of washing the turkey. I'm medical reporter Liz Bonus. Back to you.
All right, Jonathan, what are you looking forward to this Thanksgiving? What's your favorite?
I love me some turkey. Actually, me and my family are going up to New York to see the Thanksgiving parade, which we did this back in 2018, the record coldest year. So
well, I hope it's warmer for you guys.
That won't be happening again. That was tough. It was like 18 degrees. Anyway, we have a dinner planned out at a restaurant this year. But right now, 70 degrees, mostly cloudy skies, winds out of the southwest at about 5 miles an hour. It is super dry, 23% relative humidity. And on the background there, that is the Skycam coming out of the MDOT network. So you see some of that traffic building on the north side of the Beltway around Towson. 70 now, 72 a high temperature today, just 4 degrees off a record high. 62 at Cockeysville, 66 Columbia, 64 at Laurel, and 67 at Gaithersburg. Hey, talk about tailgating weather. Man, you can't get much better. Short sleeves out for this. Temperature is running about 8 to even 12 degrees warmer than just 24 hours ago, and barely even a cloud in the sky. Just a little high, thin veil of clouds and some haze, actually, from some wildfires along the Shenandoah Valley. Now, rain, the nearest rain is in Florida and way up toward Minneapolis, northwest Omaha, back to Denver. Those are two weather makers. The one that's going to affect us is the one that's up here toward Minneapolis. But any rain that's with it is really going to kind of be drained out, if you will, at the expense of this system down to the south and east. We're in the middle with warmth. We will have an increase in clouds tomorrow. But again, that tropical moisture that's heading off of Florida, not expected to be a tropical system, but could have some flash flooding through the end of the week into the early weekend here. But that is going to, again, drain a lot of the moisture out of the cold front that's going to be heading our way, our next weather maker. Ahead of it, temperatures in the 60s to around 70. That's going to remain through tomorrow. We'll see some increase in clouds. Behind it, there are cooler temperatures. A lot of those will get left behind in the Intermountain West, but we may see somewhat cooler temperatures as we head into the weekend. Now, out in the tropics, we still have a couple of weeks of hurricane season left, and we're still going. We got potential tropical cyclone 22. This could be Vincent over the next several days. That could cross over eastern Cuba and eventually get shot out into the open Atlantic. So future scan overnight as we head through the Ravens game time frame. Mainly clear skies, gorgeous temperatures falling from the 50s, perhaps to around 50. Tomorrow clouds will increase, but high temperatures still nearing about 70 degrees. A record tomorrow 75. And then notice overnight, Friday night into Saturday morning, some light showers rolling through. And as we head into Saturday morning, clearing skies and yes, some cooler temperatures for the weekend, still right at close to average. Breezy cooler day Saturday, 58 on Sunday. Monday looking good. Could get wet for Thanksgiving travels Tuesday into Wednesday morning before a nice looking Thanksgiving.
Coming up at 5 o'clock, Fox 45 News continues to investigate the city's flagship gun violence prevention program. We press Mayor Brandon Scott on transparency.
Is momentum growing for more third-party candidates in the race for the White House? I'm Scott Thuman in Washington with new poll numbers and what they mean for 2024.
The 2024 field may be far from set. Retiring Democratic Senator Joe Manchin says he may run for president as an independent. He says both parties have gone too far to the left and right. As chief political correspondent Scott Thuman shows us, plenty of voters agree.
For those assuming 2024 will turn out as this two-man race, an alarming number of Americans are saying not so fast, including West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, who's floating the idea of a third-party run, citing concerns about both Donald Trump.
The country would be in a horrible situation, challenging our democracy if he got reelected.
And President Biden.
He's not the person we thought that was getting elected, being a centrist and moderate. He's been pushed so far to the left.
He's not alone. A new Quinnipiac poll shows more than 7 in 10 independent voters want someone else in the race, and almost 6 in 10 Democrats. But only about 3 in 10 Republicans feel that way. A majority of them say they're satisfied with the current field.
It's significant that at this point, this many people are on the fence. I mean, this is a time where we've got 2 older gentlemen running for president who are not terribly popular. And so people are looking for something else.
Prompting scenes like this. Reporters peppering Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson while on the Hill Wednesday.
Mr. Johnson, are you running for president?
But more serious consideration is being granted elsewhere, and nobody seeing it more than Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Kennedy is a force in the universe in this all of a sudden. I'll let you draw the conclusion why. But we also found that people who have least belief in government have the most belief in Kennedy.
And he, a skeptic of the election system, which he likened to the former Soviet Union.
The Communist Party was claiming that they had a democracy. But the way they controlled the democracy is the party alone could designate who the nominees were.
Pollsters tell me it's young voters who are most disheartened and looking for a fresh horse who, even if that candidate doesn't win, could still dramatically alter the race. In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5, hate-filled messages having serious consequences for a Johns Hopkins doctor. The controversial social media post on the Israel-Hamas war. Plus, the Chinese government addressing the fentanyl crisis here in the U.S., the questions that still remain on how they'll stop the shipments coming into the country.
A Baltimore City Council member says he's never seen more dysfunction in City Hall. Why Eric Costello is backing Sheila Dixon for mayor.
And what does the mayor know about the investigation into Safe Streets? Fox 45 News continues to press him for answers on the FBI's search for potential gang ties.
Alleged racist comments put a Johns Hopkins doctor on leave, the latest example of the war in Israel's impact here in Maryland.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
City Hall has reached a level of dysfunction that I never thought was possible, and our residents and our small businesses deserve better. We need proven leadership that can restore faith in our local government while creating a culture of accountability that will right this ship. And I believe that former Mayor Sheila Dixon is that leader.
Some stinging criticism from City Hall from Councilman Eric Costello, who's backing Sheila Dixon in the 2024 mayoral race. The councilman laying out a laundry list of issues, saying the mayor's office has gotten too big, while highlighting failures of city services and public safety in Baltimore.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Maxine Stryker in for Kai tonight. Councilman Costello's comments are some of the strongest we have heard from a public official, calling for change at the highest level of city government.
Fox 45's Jeff Abel joins us live now. He was at that press conference this afternoon. Jeff?
That's right. This endorsement does come with some stinging words delivered by a city councilman and straight toward the mayor. City Councilman Eric Costello. He threw his support behind mayoral candidate Sheila Dixon this afternoon. But in making his case, he delivered some tough words about the current administration, which he believes is spiraling right out of control.
Make no mistake about it. I love Brandon Scott as a person. I do. And it pains me to say that his lack of leadership is failing all of us. We are at an inflection point, and continuing on this trajectory is simply not an option.
It takes a lot to step out against an administration that you work with and to support someone who's trying to go back into office.
Well, despite his tough words, Costello says he is still able to work with the current administration and plans to without incident. We're live this afternoon. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
While endorsing Dixon, the councilman also took a hard stance against Mayor Scott, saying his poor leadership has led to a number of severe failures from all levels of city government. Costello criticized the mayor's recent action plan for preventing car theft, saying Scott waited until nearly 10,000 cars had been stolen before taking aggressive action. He also highlighted the constant issues with the Department of Public Works. Some of the issues DPW has faced include potholes going unfilled, the multiple water contamination incidents in the past year, and the failure to return to weekly recycling years after the pandemic ended. And finally, he stressed people do not feel safe due to rampant youth crime and incidents like the one in his district, where he claims a person was robbed but then ignored by police who did not take the crime seriously.
Day in and day out, I hear from constituents who want basics like trash and recycling that is picked up on time, roads that are paved, and police and city agencies that are responsive to our residents.
Mayor Scott's re-election campaign has released a statement claiming the next election will come down to whether voters support Mayor Scott's vision or return to the, quote, failed leadership and policies of the past. That statement goes on to say the mayor is committed to investing in Baltimore communities and building public trust.
That brings us to our question of the day. If the election was held today, who would you vote for? Mayor Scott or Sheila Dixon? So far, 91% say Dixon. You can vote right now at foxbaltimore.com.
On top of all those issues, the city's flagship gun violence prevention program is under FBI investigation. Federal officials looking into possible ties between Safe Streets and a notorious Baltimore gang. Fox 45 continues to demand answers from City Hall about the Safe Streets program. Mackenzie Frost joins us live now. And Mackenzie, what is the mayor saying about this possible connection between gang members and Safe Streets?
Well, Maxine, we caught up with the mayor a few different times today at various events just to question him about what he knows between the gang affiliation and really what's going on inside the violence intervention program.
Good morning, everyone.
After Mayor Scott's media availability Wednesday ended before we had a chance to ask another question. I have one more question. Brian, everyone got a second round. We followed up with his office later that day, sending more questions, but no response.
I want to express my thanks and gratitude.
So we caught up with Mayor Scott at an event Thursday to ask those questions about safe streets and the history of Black Guerrilla Family, or BGF, gang affiliation with some members from the Violence Interruption Group.
We didn't cut the news conference short. No one else had that complaint but you, so let's be truthful when we're asking questions.
Well, I had other questions, and I sent them to your office, didn't answer, so I wanted to ask you here, how long have you known about the possible links between BGF and Safe Streets?
So we're going to go through this again, Mackenzie. I think that we appreciate your reporting, and we appreciate the fact that you guys can go and look up public documents in court and know that one individual way back in 2010 had been involved in BGF and was in Safe Streets. But we know that that does not mean that everyone that's in Safe Streets is in BGF.
The mayor echoing a sentiment he said before, committing to accountability for any wrongdoing.
Anybody, I don't care if it's Mackenzie Frost, whoever it is, if they're in the streets of Baltimore and they're doing things with BGF or any other organized person, if we find out, we will do what we do all the time. If you're involved in illegal activity, it can be my mother. She'll be treated the same way.
And since funding for the Safe Streets program comes from the state coffers, would you support the state forensic auditors taking a look at how the money is being spent for the Safe Streets program?
Well, I think that we have a fabulous comptroller in the city of Baltimore who is quite capable of doing that, and we know that when you receive state grants for things, that the state does that on their own.
So if the state auditors were to say they wanted to do it, would you support that?
I just answered that question. City first, and then if the state wants to step in and do that, they can have at it. We're not hiding anything.
The audit commission made up of these 7 members could call for a single audit of Monsey, but so far, that has yet to happen. Now, as for a state-level audit, we're reaching out to lawmakers in Annapolis to find out if they would support such a probe. We'll let you know what we learn. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
And that brings us to our second question of the day. Do you believe Mayor Brandon Scott is being transparent about safe streets? So far, 96% of those who voted say no. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote. Click on the Pulse tab to weigh in.
Now to the latest on the war in Israel. The Israeli Defense Force says it has recovered the body of one of the hostages being held by Hamas. The IDF claims it found the victim's body in a structure near Gaza's largest hospital. The hospital has been a major focus in the conflict this week. Palestinian officials saying it has been forced to shut down after running out of fuel. Meanwhile, Israel claims the hospital is a base of operations for Hamas.
All communication services are shut down in Gaza due to a lack of fuel. Landline connections, the mobile networks, and internet connections have all been dropped. It comes as Israeli forces signal a possible expansion of their offensive to southern Gaza.
Demonstrators calling for a ceasefire clashed with Capitol Police outside the Democratic National Committee headquarters in Washington last night. Police say one person was arrested, 6 officers were injured.
Now, the conflict in Israel and Gaza leading to a rise in hate speech targeting both Jews and Palestinians here in the U.S.
The director of pediatric cardiac care at Johns Hopkins is on leave after he allegedly posted hate-filled messages on social media.
Fox 45's Amy Simpson live now with what we're learning about all of this. Amy?
Yeah, Maxine, Mary, Maryland's Council on American Islamic Relations raising the red flag about these posts by Dr. Darren Klugman. And today, Johns Hopkins telling me the person responsible for making those posts is on leave and will not have any interaction with patients or students as an investigation is underway. As the Israel-Hamas war continues in the Middle East, back here in Baltimore, a Hopkins doctor is in the hot seat after violence-infused and hate-filled social media posts surfaced from the first days of the conflict.
We were asked by staff, employees at the hospital, physicians who work there, to take action.
Of Care, the Council on American Islamic Relations, sharing screenshots of a series of online posts from early October, shared by the account at Dr. Klugs. One post described Palestinians as, quote, bloodthirsty, morally depraved animals. Another referred to Palestinians as, quote, people that rape and murder civilians.
We've been listening to reaction from staff at the hospital and physicians who have reached out to us, and also to the families who have pulled their children from the hospital and now have taken their children to other hospitals.
CARE said it learned of the posts Monday night, quickly filing a complaint with Maryland's Board of Physicians to investigate Dr. Darren Klugman. The physician, according to his profile on Johns Hopkins website, director of pediatric critical care and an associate professor of anesthesiology and critical care medicine.
Healthcare providers, physicians have a responsibility to demonstrate that they can care for these children regardless of their own political views, regardless of which side of the divide they are on, how they perceive the events unfolding overseas.
The hospital also responding this week. We at Hopkins share the concern of many about the deeply disturbing social media posts made by a faculty member in the School of Medicine regarding the ongoing crisis in the Middle East. A spokesperson said, in part, also saying the hospital and university are committed to a safe and inclusive environment for all. Statements that explicitly threaten or extol violence against groups or individuals on the basis of national origin, race, or religion violate our policies and do not represent our values. While this doctor is on leave, as Johns Hopkins says it's investigating, this civil rights advocacy group not satisfied and calling for further action.
You know, at this point, it's too little too late. A leave is not enough. We are calling for him to be terminated. We are calling for his medical license to be revoked.
Meanwhile, the social media account that made these posts in early October has since been deleted. And this afternoon, citing state confidentiality laws, Maryland's Board of Physicians said it cannot disclose if it is investigating this physician, but did say any possible disciplinary action will be posted on the Board of Physicians website. Reporting live tonight, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Amy, thank you. Well, this is not the first time we are seeing comments on the conflict having big impacts. The nonprofit Casa of Maryland is coming under fire after the longtime executive director released controversial statements about the war. In a now deleted statement, Gustavo Torres expressed Casa's, quote, steadfast support for Palestine's relentless fight for freedom. The statement went on to call for an immediate ceasefire and the halt of U.S. tax dollars promoting the ongoing violence. A statement leading to a group of state lawmakers threatening to pull funding from CASA. The organization has apologized, but some local and state leaders say it's not enough.
I wouldn't really call it a full apology, but then it says that they're going to put out an updated statement. Yet it's been over a week and they haven't done so. And so clearly they're not really sorry about this statement that they put out.
That's a good start, and certainly it's an appropriate thing to do. I am of the belief that more should be done.
Local advocate groups are now demanding lawmakers retract their threats to strip funding, including Maryland's ACLU, who says they are firmly defending CASA's right to free speech. Well, today, Casa of Maryland took to Twitter to release an updated statement saying, in part, quote, we wanted to shine a spotlight directly on the innocent Israeli and Palestinian children and families caught in the midst of this horrendous conflict. Instead, we caused dear friends pain and confusion.
Still ahead tonight, a date has been set for the second federal trial of a former Baltimore City State's attorney. A look at what comes next and how much prison time Marilyn Mosby could face.
New evidence against New York Republican Congressman George Santos, why critics argue he broke the law.
But first, anticipation building as Ravens Nation prepares for tonight's matchup against the Bengals. Morgan Adsit joins us live from M&T Bank Stadium.
And current tailgate temperatures are falling through the 60s, but by game time tonight at 8:15, well, it looks like temperatures are at 55 for kickoff, 53 at halftime, and 51 for the final, and our big anticipated Ravens win. I'm going to let you know when rain and maybe some much cooler temperatures coming. That's going to be in my Weather Authority forecast.
A live look at M&T Bank Stadium tonight, where in just under 3 hours, the Ravens are set to take on the rival Cincinnati Bengals on Thursday Night Football. Tonight's game has massive implications for the divisional race and potential playoff seeding later this year.
Sports Unlimited Morgan Adsit is live on the field at M&T Bank right now with the details. Hey, Morgan.
Hey guys, you nailed it. I mean, this is as big as it's going to get. Obviously, it's the game that's happening now, but potentially for the whole regular season for the Ravens, just with the implications. They entered this week at the top of the AFC North. They can leave this week at the top of the AFC North, but they can welcome company if they leave this week with 2 straight losses before their 10-day mini-bye. And don't even get me started on Cincinnati. They are winners of 4 of their last 5, also lost a heartbreaker on a last-second field goal in a game they probably never should have lost Sunday at home, and now they come in here with no wins in the AFC North. So this anticipation is building, and for us here, it's building as well, because we're still waiting on a lot of things to happen here at the field. It's pretty blank and empty behind me. We're waiting on those pregame warm-ups to come up, but really this is just that big primetime under the lights Thursday night games where the Bengals are looking for their first win in the North. The Ravens are looking to keep and extend that North lead. So all eyes are on this battle tonight.
All eyes are on us, Baltimore versus Cincinnati. So it's going to be good. You're going to have to get our bodies ready for Thursday. They're going to have to do the same thing and come out there ready to perform.
It's definitely cool, growing up, wanting to play in the NFL, watching primetime games. It's definitely something that I dream about playing in, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. Monday night, Sunday night, Thursday night, whatever it is. So it's definitely an awesome feeling.
When you're in M&T Bank Stadium at nighttime with our crowd, it's electrifying. So I'm definitely pumped to be in that atmosphere.
Lamar Jackson loves that nighttime and those primetime lights. He's had those matchups plenty throughout his career, 18 of them. He's 13-5 at night, and he's 7-2 against Cincinnati. And this is the first time in 3 seasons he is going to face the Bengals twice. The Ravens went into Cincinnati and won in week 2, but these teams are drastically different from the health department and just really how they're playing this season. And we'll see how it all goes tonight, just a little bit after 8 o'clock. Reporting live at M&T Bank Stadium, I'm Morgan Adsit for Sports Unlimited.
All right, and that kickoff about 8:15 tonight, and it looks like it's going to be just fantastic weather, although it's cooling down now. We made it to 72 for a high. We're now at 62 here in Baltimore for all those folks that are tailgating in the parking lots on the Toyota Ishida Harbor Skycam. Our humidity at 43%, so pretty dry. It means mainly clear sky for our game. It also means, again, with the mainly clear skies, temperatures cooling quick. We're at 62 here in Baltimore now, 64 at Columbia, 61 Laurel, 62 at Gaithersburg. Some 50s along the headwaters of the Chesapeake Bay as you head into Bel Air as well as Elkton. And near the bay, we're actually in the 50s right now. Temperatures are all running surpluses over 24 hours ago, 5 to 10 degrees warmer than just 24 hours ago as we made it to that just 4 degrees off of record highs, 72 this afternoon. HD radar looks pretty good for the game as well. Now, as we head beyond that towards this weekend, a couple weather makers. There's one up here around Minneapolis, back north and west of Omaha. There's a ton of rain around Florida, some flash flooding threats down that way. And we are kind of in between. Although it's clear now, I think we will give way to some increasing clouds from the northwest and the southeast into tomorrow. Tomorrow will be warm again, highs close to 70, but it won't be this moisture that gets us. It's the stuff north and west. And you see that front there, that weather maker, it's just fairly moisture starved. It will become ever more so moisture starved as a lot of the moisture kind of travels to this tropical stuff that's down to the south and east and heads off the coast and away. So that means when this thing comes through, there's not going to be a whole lot, but there will be a cool down behind it. Notice warm weather through tomorrow. By Saturday, the cooler weather enters. Temperatures probably instead of near 70, closer to 55 to 60 or so. Also, thank goodness for that cold front, because we've got potential tropical cyclone number 22, a late season system here. This thing's going to move over Cuba, potentially, with a lot of rain, and could become Tropical Storm Vincent. But that cold front that we're going to see coming through here, it's going to lift this thing up and push it well out into the open Atlantic. So future scan overnight into early tomorrow morning. Looks like, again, some mainly clear skies for a Ravens game and beyond. Clouds will increase for tomorrow. Highs about 70 degrees. Rain waits to come until tomorrow night, about 11 p.m. Any early getaways for the Thanksgiving big travel week here for Friday night into early Saturday. We're seeing a few spot showers, but by early on Saturday, that clears. And again, somewhat cooler weather moves in, breezy, cooler, high 59. Any of that shower chance should be pre-dawn hours on Saturday. Sunshine for Sunday. Monday cooling to 53. Could get wet for Tuesday travels. 58 into Wednesday, one of the busiest holiday travel days of the year. Sunshine and 50s back for Thanksgiving.
The NAACP joining the calls for change in Annapolis, hearing the growing calls across Maryland to crack down on juvenile crime.
I'm Atrell Nashar in Washington with the details of a new plan between the U.S. and China to stop the flow of fentanyl and how confident experts are that it will work.
President Biden says he and Chinese President Xi Jinping have reached a new understanding on ways to combat the flow of fentanyl into the U.S. National correspondent Atrell Nashar reports on the impact this could have on the effort to save American lives.
A renewed effort to curb what the DEA calls the single deadliest drug threat the U.S. has ever encountered, fentanyl. Following their meeting Wednesday in San Francisco, President Biden says Chinese President Xi Jinping agreed to take action to reduce the flow of pill presses and precursor chemicals used to make fentanyl to the Western Hemisphere.
It's going to save lives, and I appreciate President Xi's commitment on this issue.
The White House says China's law enforcement will crack down on synthetic drug and chemical suppliers. Already, they say certain China-based pharmaceutical companies have ceased operations. China also restarting its coordination with an international narcotics database meant to disrupt illicit supply chains.
Everybody in China will then see the importance of this because she has made a proclamation.
Dave Luckey, who served at the Department of Homeland Security, says China hasn't put this much emphasis on the issue in years. He said he'd be happy if the agreement is even moderately successful.
Because the last time this occurred, China scheduled fentanyl and all fentanyl analogs and really stopped, to a large extent, the production of of fentanyl.
Republican Congressman Mike Gallagher, who chairs the Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party, says Biden is too lenient with China, saying this before the meeting.
Even if they come up with some working group on fentanyl, which, listen, I hope will be successful, it has come at a cost.
The issue is almost certain to come up Friday when President Biden meets with Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. According to the DEA, precursor chemicals are often purchased by cartels in Mexico, which process them into fentanyl, which is then smuggled into the U.S.
Finding common ground will likely be difficult.
¿Cuáles son las pruebas?
López Obrador has pushed back on U.S. data about cartel activity, instead blaming the U.S. for the fentanyl problem. In Washington, I'm Atrel Nashar reporting.
So much theft, they can't keep their doors open. Fox 45 News looking into why a Baltimore pharmacy and a Walgreens is shutting down. The former city state's attorney could be facing serious jail time. Taking a closer look at what comes next for Marilyn Mosby. In just 2 months, Marilyn Mosby will once again be on trial. The former city state's attorney set to be tried for 2 counts of mortgage fraud after being convicted of perjury last week. Mosby won't be sentenced until the completion of her second federal trial.
But just how much time is she looking at spending behind bars? We spoke with a local attorney and found out.
It was just last week a federal jury found former Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby guilty of 2 counts of perjury.
I'm blessed.
Now she's set to be back in court January 18th, facing 2 counts of making false statements on mortgage applications related to the purchase of 2 vacation homes in Florida.
It's a very strong case. Mortgage fraud cases, look, she's an attorney. She signed her name a bunch of times to a bunch of legal documents. It's literally what we're supposed to do for a living as lawyers.
Once that trial comes to an end, Mosby will be sentenced for the 2 perjury counts, each which carry a maximum sentence of 5 years. And if found guilty, the mortgage fraud counts each carry a maximum sentence of 30 years in federal prison.
She's subject to the maximum penalty as to each of the counts that she's facing, assuming that she's convicted of all of them.
But Kurt Nachman with EN Lawyers, who's not associated with the case, says it's unlikely she'd get the maximum sentence and spend 7 decades behind bars. It's more likely the perjury counts will carry a sentence of anywhere between 15 and 21 months each. Either way, he believes Mosby will spend years in federal prison.
Assuming that Mosby is convicted of all of her conduct, I believe that she will serve more than 12 months, more than 24 months in federal prison.
He says a plea negotiation could also still be on the table, and that could mean a more lenient sentence.
The government may or may not want to do that. Ultimately, it's going to be, Eric Barron, the United States Attorney's decision as to whether or not they're going to even engage in a plea discussion.
You can trust Fox 45 News to bring you the latest on Marilyn Mosby's federal trial and sentencing. You can read more right now at foxbaltimore.com.
I've watched Mayor Dixon in the community over the last 9 years, and simply put, I've been in awe of her, with a tremendous amount of respect and admiration for what she does each and every single day for residents, even after being out of office for over a decade.
Councilman Eric Costello endorsing Sheila Dixon for mayor. The councilman saying Dixon is the only person running who can fix an unprecedented level of dysfunction in City Hall.
We are joined now by political analyst John Deedy to break down what this means for the mayoral race. John, thanks so much for joining us here tonight.
You're welcome.
John, we have this endorsement now. Is it a surprise that Eric Costello is backing Dixon for mayor? I know they've known each other for a very long time.
There have been rumors for months that Eric Costello was moving in this direction. He's been very dissatisfied with the mayor, especially recently on the redistricting plan that's going on. This is a big endorsement because the one bridge Marilyn Mosby has had trouble crossing is getting white voters to support her in the last 2 elections. That one group of voters has been most enraged by her conduct when she was in office and the reason she had to resign. This endorsement, along with Sandy Rosenberg's endorsement, in many ways may lead people in Canton and Roland Park and other areas to say, if these prominent leaders crossed her, I guess I can cross this bridge and vote for Sheila Dixon.
And John, in his comments, Costello made it very clear that he's not just endorsing her because of her positive qualities that he sees. He's doing it because he has a lack of faith in the current mayor. Were you surprised at all at how scathing some of his comments were? And what does that tell us about the current state of City Hall?
He used the word dysfunctional. And in many ways, it goes back to just about 24, 48 hours ago when they announced, well, the recycling that you were hoping to get picked up early next year isn't going to happen. People hate government, but there's one expectation they have: government to work and function. And in an election year, when that would have been a good thing to get done quickly. Now you're talking about voters going to the polls, maybe not having their recycling getting taken care of by election day, and them feeling this is another reason to vote against the mayor. Government running and being functional is an important element in people's votes.
How much weight do you think does an endorsement from a city council member carry?
It carries weight in this respect, and there's 439,000 reasons. That's the money Eric Costello reported that he has in the bank as of last year. And he's fundraising again, so he's going to have more next year. And he, in the past, has been very generous in dispersing campaign contributions to a variety of people. So I am sure that he's going to use this money to help Sheila Dixon, help other people. The one negative about the Costello endorsement was he also backed Jack Young in 2020, and Jack Young never got off the ground.
All right, John Deedy, thank you so much for speaking with us, giving us your insight into this endorsement today. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
The juvenile crime crisis continues to plague Baltimore.
Some residents telling Fox 45 News they believe it is the main factor forcing a pharmacy at the Walgreens to shut its doors. Fox 45 News has team coverage starting with Olivia Dance.
When you look into those kids' eyes, they do not see fear.
West Baltimore resident Paulette Carroll has been a victim of juvenile crime.
Yes, I am a victim. When you have a gang of kids knocking on your door and want to fight one of your kids, and if your kid's not in there, they're going to attack you. I witnessed it, and I was one of those people that had got attacked before.
She says she's also seen teens commit similar crimes at her local Walgreens pharmacy.
It's a big concern. You know, they come in a pack of 20, 15, and come into the store and ambush the workers, snatch and grab, beat them up. So it's sad.
Paulette Carroll tells me that beyond this Walgreens, other nearby businesses, including in this parking lot here, have also been impacted by juvenile crime.
It was MeQ, the doctor's office, you know, their vans been vandalism and the windows been busting and they still.
Today, this Walgreens off Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard is closing its doors for good. Councilman Eric Costello represents the district and addressed the closure, blaming juvenile crime.
Which has been plagued by juvenile crime, which means the communities I represent in Heritage Crossing and then towns in the Terraces in Northeast Poppleton will be without a pharmacy because collectively we haven't done enough to get this situation under control.
Walgreens has not confirmed juvenile crime is behind the store's closing, but Carroll says something needs to be done about the youth crime.
I think they need to come down harder on these kids because the parents are participating in them. They need to hold them accountable for their kids.
And while Walgreens isn't the first business to close because of crime, Carroll says this closure will have a major impact.
We have over 3,000 people over here. What are they going to do? And it's a lot of seniors do not drive and they cannot walk.
So now many in this West Baltimore community are without a pharmacy. Reporting in Baltimore, I'm Olivia Dance, Fox 45 News.
Well, in the nation's capital, Mayor Muriel Bowser declared a public emergency Monday in hopes of getting youth crime under control.
Young people need to have consequences and boundaries.
Bowser calling for kids to be held in police custody for repeat offenses and face punishment for their actions. When Fox 45 News pressed Mayor Scott on why he hasn't taken a similar stance, he claimed the cities are too different to take the same action.
Let's remember, everybody, that D.C. is a city that's governed differently than ours and any other city in the country. Essentially, D.C. is a city and a state at the same time. They control a whole manner of juvenile systems that we don't because we have the fabulous state of Maryland, like juvenile service, like social service, like CPS. All of those things are not under the preview of the mayor.
This morning, Fox 45 spoke with the spokesperson for the government accountability group Peace, who says his response is concerning for some residents.
I am starting to wonder what city he lives in, what city he is the mayor of, because when we go out in the community and we've held town halls, we're doing all 14 council districts, and in each one of our town halls, we hear from residents who are panicked. They are afraid, and they recognize the gravity of the situation, and they're saying, well, what's going to happen next? And to hear the mayor, I think, be so out of touch with what residents are saying and what residents are experiencing is pretty scary.
And the issues with juvenile violence are extending far beyond city limits. In Baltimore County, the NAACP is calling for more youth accountability. Fox 45's Vincent Hill has more on their message.
Inside the otherwise quiet Woodlawn Library,